Welcome, LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Danielle Mulvey. Danielle, are you ready to do this?
Let's go, George.
Let's go. Danielle is a former flight attendant turned entrepreneur who has cracked the code on recruiting and retaining what she calls five-star employees. She's the host of Profit First Nation. She's got a book coming out at the end of 2023. Danielle, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, why you do what you do.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am a wife and a mother. So I have two children that we are both very proud of. They play very high level competitive water polo. They were both named to the U.S. national team this past year.
Wow.
For their respective age groups. My son played in Budapest representing Team USA. So we are just on a pool deck on any given day. So
amazing. And professionally, how did you get inspired to do the work that you're doing?
So, oh my goodness. I kind of had an opportunity to start my own advertising and marketing firm when I was 25 years old, and I took advantage of that opportunity. And what's funny is I was, you could say, lucky with my first hires. They were great. But my hiring strategy, being a 25-year-old entrepreneur, was to hire people younger than me because they would have no experience and they wouldn't know that I didn't know what I was doing. And that strategy worked for a couple of, maybe a couple of years. And then I had an employee who let's just say I woke up one Monday morning saying, can I call in sick to my own company? Because it was just, I was dreading having to come in and deal with him for another week. And that was really like where I drew the line in the sand. And I said, this is crazy. Like, I need to understand how to not make this kind of hiring mistake again. And so at that moment, I just kind of went all in on understanding and really improving and creating a process and a system around recruiting and hiring the best of the best, like the top tier, what we term five-star employees, the top 15% of available talent in the market for the given rate. And, 24 years later, here I am with the fruits of those labors. And I've built, we've got multiple companies, my husband and I, that do over $50 million a year annually. And I really only have to spend about 10 hours a week overseeing the operations of those businesses because we have five-star employees who, just do fantastic work and a fantastic job and do the job better than myself could do in any of the tasks and such. So now I'm at a position and hosting Profit First Nation, where Mike and I, the author of Profit First, in talking to entrepreneurs who've implemented Profit First, but still struggling with profitability, what we found with 10 or more employees, $1 million or more in real revenue, their biggest expense was payroll. And the biggest problem with their payroll is that average ho-hum or worse 1, 2, or 3-star employees are dragging down their payroll, increasing that expense, which is killing their profitability because one 5-star employee does the work of 2 or 3, 1, 2, or 3-star employees. So when you settle for less than 5-star employees, you are just like, can I cuss?
Please.
You're just pissing money in the wind. I mean, so that just kind of became the aha. And Mike's books are sort of an evolution with entrepreneurs. And so our work with All In, and that book that's coming out in December 2023 is really kind of like, okay, this is a real problem for entrepreneurs. Everyone's just kind of ad hocing it, copying and pasting other people's job descriptions and their postings and et cetera. And it's just a bunch of just useless gobbledygook that doesn't do anything to attract and retain 5-star employees.
The pain of hiring the wrong person, which you've nicely laid out, and the costs are astronomical, yet it's so common. It's wild.
It is crazy. And it sort of becomes like a prisoner's dilemma too. I mean, one of the reasons why I just like, again, was like, okay, like, I guess I can start another company and help entrepreneurs with this was with my dad in his business. I mean, he's been in business for over 45 years. And my stepmother was just like, this person's got to go. Everyone in the organization was, this person's got to go. He had, his part-time controller quit because she said, I can't work with this person. This person's got to go. And, my dad felt stuck, and he's just like, but like, at least I know what I have to deal with. I like what's to say that I wouldn't make the same hiring mistake again, that, and I sat in on interviews with him and his CPA firm. And we had 4 great candidates, and he picked the guy who was fresh out of college and played volleyball at UCLA. But, he kind of like looked and acted like my dad to a certain degree, 40 years earlier or so. And that's who my dad went with. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like he ruled out probably the best candidate because the poor guy wore a suit to the interview. And so most people subjectively hire, and we've got to get away from subjectively hiring. And so, using something like the 5-star employee rating system gives you an objective way to assess talent, and move away from that subjectivity, which tends to lead to mishires.
That's so funny. And it's so identifiable that we want to hire people that are sort of like us, or we perceive to be like us, and just be totally subjective about that. And then hold on to people that just, the devil that I know is maybe better than the devil that I don't know. And I mean, I like to think about and talk about behavioral finance. Well, it's essentially, we all have these blind spots, and unless we're paying attention to them, then we have no idea that we're experiencing and doing the same thing over and over again. So being objective, having this process, I think obviously the more we can have processes and be objective about something, the better. So tell me about the 5-star program.
So the 5-star employee rating system is based off of 5 criteria, and it allows you to objectively assess talent. And so, when you go through it, you either know someone is a 5-star employee, a 1-star employee, or a 3-star employee. And so the first criteria is core values. And so it's really important that you want to clone yourself. Well, then the best way to do that is at the foundation and making sure that your new hires are aligned with your core values. And we're talking about like your true core values, not the aspirational values, but the owner's values that are just like steadfast, and they've always been the same, and they've always been true to that individual. And what's funny is once you start to like really look at and think about, okay, if these are my core values, and you want to make sure that you have clarifying statements around those too, so everyone understands exactly what you mean when you say delighting others, if that's a core value of yours. And it's important to again, think about the people that that have worked in your organization before that were not so hot. They probably weren't so hot and not a fit because they didn't align with your core values. So that is the first criteria. The second criteria is the 11 universal qualities of a 5-star employee. So we've identified 11 universal qualities that are just, no matter the role, no matter the position, these are the qualities that are steadfast and true for a 5-star employee. And out of these 11, 2 of them are coded green, which means they're relatively easy to change. 2 of them are coded red. And then the rest of them are coded gray, which means that they can be adjusted and coached on, with that intention about helping them improve those qualities. But, the 2 that are red, those are like red flag deal breakers. If someone doesn't meet your rating for those criteria, those qualities, then they're no longer a viable potential 5-star candidate. So those 2 red qualities are listen and limber. So we don't like to use the term flexibility. We suggest all business owners, all hiring managers never use the word flexibility, because what you're meaning when you mean flexible is you're really meaning limber. And when an employee sees flexible, they think it's something else. They think it's all about them. And you really need people to be limber. You need people to be able to be amenable to change, to pivot, to be, able to just do whatever needs to get done and be limber, not flexible. And then the second red is listen. So you want individuals who can listen with all their senses. They're people who take notes. They're people who observe things. They're people who, just again, use all of those senses. I had an interview back in March with a candidate, and I was like 3.5 minutes into the interview, and she wasn't answering my questions directly. And so I'm just like, okay, she's not answering. Let me kind of like simplify, make more simple questions. And literally at about the 5.5 minute mark, she still wasn't. So I just was like, I'm sorry, but I don't think this is going to be a fit. I didn't try to make it work. It was just like, okay, when this is a clear red flag, when she's definitely, demonstrating that she doesn't have the quality of being able to listen, then she's out as a candidate.
I love it. And that is, I feel like when we're hiring people, we ignore red flags, and we do that at our absolute peril.
Because we're subjective about it.
Right.
It's like, I mean, there's no measurement, it's just like your gut. And so when you use something like the 5-star employee rating system, it forces you into that objectivity and getting honest with yourself instead of just keeping it in your head. And that's typically what we do. We don't necessarily write down those red flags, or we don't have a litmus test that we can bump it up against. It's just like, well, I mean, I don't want to, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And, that's the hard part, and why we have to be more objective in our hiring is we want to see the good in people. And that's amazing. That's great. But, just because someone's not a 5-star employee for the role that you're hiring for doesn't mean that they're not a 5-star employee for another role. I mean, I like to say that I could get hired as a bookkeeper tomorrow. No problem. Easy. Well, I'm going to be honest. I would be a 2-star bookkeeper, because although I could do the job, I would hate it. I wouldn't enjoy it. I would procrastinate. I would, do all those things. But I mean, I am a 5-star entrepreneur. So, it's really about, the problem is that when someone applies for the job, there could be misalignment there too, of they think that they can do it. And that's why it's important to test for it. But let's continue on, if that's okay, with the 5-star. So number 3 are making sure the candidate has the appropriate aptitude and skills for the role. So as I talked about, it doesn't matter if you can say it, it matters if you do it. So it's really important to create testing that's specific to the skills that you need for the role. I mean, of course, you could use like basic Excel and 10 key and typing tests and accounting and bookkeeping tests, et cetera. But, I also like to create other tests, like if I'm looking for attention to detail, or if I'm needing them to do something that's repetitive over and over, or be able to follow a list and a checklist, et cetera. So we also create tests in our organization. But then there's over 30 aptitudes as well that we've defined, and you want to interview around those aptitudes, and then make sure that you're rating that individual on those aptitudes, and kind of like, what is the rating that you need for someone with those particular aptitudes. The fourth criteria in the 5-star employee rating system is success metrics. So it's really important that you take the job description, and you need that formal job description that has everything in the kitchen sink in it. But you also want to have the 3 to 5 key responsibilities highlighted. These key responsibilities are going to be what drives the revenue, what drives the profitability for your business. And even an admin is driving revenue and profitability for the business. And so with those 3 to 5 key responsibilities, you want to quantify what success looks like in that for that position and those responsibilities. And when I say quantify, you want to attach numbers, metrics, dollar signs to that. So for example, one of our businesses, we process long-term care claims for the state of California Employee Pension and Retirement System. And so, throughout our recruitment process, starting with the job posting, we say that you're processing, you're adjudicating long-term care claims, and you have to meet 98% financial accuracy, 95% procedural accuracy, and you need to be processing 42 claims a day. So it's very clear, it's very direct. You know exactly what success looks like in the role. And if you look at other job descriptions for other sort of claims examiner positions, there's no mention of metrics. And what this also does is it attracts the people who are like, yeah, I like to gamify my work. Yeah, I like to have a challenge. Yes, I like to know where I stand in terms of meeting goals and expectations. And it repels the people that are really not qualified or not wholly going to be going all in on the job if they're going to be held accountable to any sort of metrics.
Nice. That makes a ton of sense.
And then the fifth criteria is return on payroll. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the fourth criteria. And return on payroll means that the individual should be producing a 3x return on payroll. So as I mentioned, in admin, a lot of people think, well, the admin is not contributing to revenue. They're behind the scenes. And I'm like, well, absolutely, they're contributing to the revenue of the company, because each thing they're taking off the plate at their rate of maybe $20 an hour, so that the person that they're supporting, whether it be the president or the chief financial officer, et cetera, everything that they're taking off the plate at $20 an hour is allowing that other person to do their work that's, valued more in the $300, $400, $500 an hour range. And so that's how you just make sure that everyone is in alignment with making sure that what they're doing is producing that 3x return on payroll.
I love it. I love a good framework and process, Danielle, and this definitely is. So how hard is it for people to actually implement this?
It's really a discipline, and it's the discipline about never settling. So it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time to really get clear on what you want, and craft questions around being able to objectively assess if the person has the qualities, the aptitudes, the skills specifically around what you need for the particular role in the organization. And we do it in a fun way. We get you and your team together, and we collaborate with actually other teams and other businesses too. It's also important to think about, like, what don't you want? What hasn't worked before? Like, what are your pet peeves? And we make sure to prioritize those in the process as well, so that that's part of one of your filters is not allowing someone in who is going to just gnaw at you with one of your pet peeves.
Yeah, it's funny. So tell me what you really want in an employee. Like, well, I guess tell me what you don't want. This.
Oh my gosh, you're exactly right. Like, it's easier to go with like fixing the negative first. Absolutely.
Pain hurts twice as bad. So, all right, anyway. I think everybody understands what I'm trying to say. Awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you, and how can they engage with you and implement the 5-star employee rating system in their company?
So I think the best place, I know I just kind of like dumped it all on everyone here, but if you text never settle as one word, never settle to 411-321. So that's never settle, texting it to 411-321. Then you will get our how to hire 5-star employees guide. And what's cool about that is we have just a quick litmus challenge that lays out the 11 qualities of a 5-star employee, and it has you rate you're one of your like most favorite best employees who you like to clone against like the person that was a mishire in your organization. And so it really kind of starts to get that aha about like, okay, well, it's not so bad when I have something on paper to help me through this recruiting and hiring process.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Danielle your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Text "Never Settle" to 411-321 and take advantage of that assessment, going through the 11 qualities, and find out if this rating system will help you start making great hires and avoid those awful ones that make you want to quit your job as the CEO. Thanks again, Danielle.
Thanks, George.
And until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.